anyone here who would like to address us who's not on the agenda? All right, we'll move on. Financial update.
There is none.
There is none because nothing's changed since last week.
Right.
All right, department heads, would any of the department heads like to address us with any changes or information that we did not get last week?
I'm just gonna report on our race this last weekend. We had
Okay.
our fall foliage foot race, which went really well. We had terrible weather.
Oh,
It rained on us pretty much consistently from the time we set up until the race when the sun came out.
Yeah.
But it was warm, luckily, and it was a great turnout despite that. A lot of community support. Everyone just really thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and it turned out great. Chris really helped us on the course of the 10-mile trail race. We had 30 participants, and everyone came in and finished the race. We had 200 overall participants,
Wow.
but
Wow.
I
Even in
expect
the
we
rain.
would have had a lot more
Yeah.
had the weather been nice. And 200 is the same amount we've had for many years going back, so despite the weather, it was still a success. That's
okay,
it.
thank you.
Yeah.
How about you, Jim?
We got the new pickup truck for the wastewater treatment plant and the water, and, we probably get another week of pumping sludge. So if you get any complaints about the, low tide smell, that's what that is.
Okay.
And, other than that, old business.
Are we going to cover well 3?
Yeah, we'll get to well 3 in a little bit.
All right.
All right, public safety, anything new?
I'll just say that last weekend, despite the weather, I thought it was a pretty good weekend, considering.
Excellent.
Very quiet and good people, and I think a lot
All right,
of people
great.
had fun.
And you've sworn in, Kevin, what about the other part-timers?
Yeah.
When do they?
Joe, yep,
Okay, now are they out on patrol or are they going to the academy first?
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, they'll be doing some field training prior to going to the academy. Be all like limited, but we'll get them in here for as much as we can
Okay.
before that starts in February.
All right, great.
They
And
know
who's
what
this,
you
who's,
all drive,
I beg your pardon?
they know what you all drive, so.
Oh, I'm glad we finally clarified these issues.
That we have it on video.
And this new officer is from where? Is he local?
He's from Epsom. He was actually recommended as a friend of Captain Katz.
Okay.
He's a Boy Scout troop leader, works full-time restores rare cars.
Oh,
So, very smart guy. Think he's gonna be a good fit.
Great.
terrific.
All right. Great. Calendar review. Or is anybody else, any department heads, anything else you want to add? Everything's going well at the school with the after-school programs? You're up on that, is that?
Yeah, the after-school program is going quite well.
Cool. And pickleball is still just breaking records,
Plugging
huh?
along, yep, we start our first indoor cycling class again tomorrow, and which goes through until about May, so that'll be back.
Cool. And we haven't reconciled the boats yet. We haven't gotten that far. Was it a good weekend on boats at all?
We did, fortunately, because of some of our great staff, usually we close at 4 o'clock at this time of year, but because the weather was so nice that afternoon, we really tried, boats were so busy, they stayed until like 5 o'clock that day,
Great.
to serve the people, but that's really our only.
Good.
So the boats are shut down now?
It was definitely a
Yeah,
hit for
yeah.
that weekend.
Okay.
You're shut down now.
Yep, boats are partly shut down. We still need to move them, obviously.
Right. Are there any special events coming in that they've asked you to stay open for? Remember last season, we had a couple of groups coming in, maybe this weekend and the next weekend, and they asked.
Yeah, I don't know if any of those were after Columbus Day.
Yeah,
Were they? I think times that I was asked to keep it open were midweek.
Yeah.
Between Labor Day and Columbus Day.
Okay.
But I've not had any requests for
Okay.
that this year.
Cool. All right, thanks, Brooke.
Yeah.
Good job. Anyone going anywhere? Our next meeting's the 25th, is that correct?
That is correct.
I'll be here for the 25th, but I'll
Yeah,
maybe
25th, right, I'll be here.
Next Wednesday, to
Okay,
following Tuesday, I'll be gone.
all right, so I will be here. All right, we'll move on to new business, the school census report, we have it. Did everyone get a chance to see the numbers?
Yeah,
An interesting follow-up question I would have to this
Mhm.
is how many of these 14 tuition students are graduating?
How many are seniors?
Yeah, because that's gonna create a big
One.
thing,
I know
the high
one.
school.
the high school.
I don't
Because
know.
we've got only 2 going in next year, and if we lose a few more, maybe that'll
Mhm.
affect our budget in a good way. All right, any questions for the census, Bill?
No, I appreciate, the reporting. I mean, it's, if they go down another, this is, to me, the cutoff line is somewhere around 20. You get below 20, you gotta really wonder what in the world we're doing.
Yeah, well, let's see what our census is
Yeah.
next year, and we'll look at it, because if the trend
But
continues.
that's the school board's
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah,
not ours.
okay. We will move on to the arena expanded use proposal. Now, have you had a chance to read it, Margaret?
This?
Yes.
No.
Bill, did you
I
read
did.
it? Okay. Sean is here, and it's Nikolai
Yes, sir.
from Mulligan's, and the guys from Public Safety are here, because I'm sure they've got some questions, or they've answered the questions, or,
So, you wanna take this on a question basis, or what do you wanna do?
well,
I just have a question. I think I catch the theme of what you're trying to do, all right? But I just want to be sure, which is that basically you'd set this area up for private parties only. Now, help me to understand, does that mean literally that, when the hockey tournament is going on, there would be nobody sitting there and drinking, or?
Depending on when the room rentals would take place, but the only people that would have access in terms of into that room would be the actual team and families of that team.
So
that
a
rented out for
team
that
could
period.
rent the space
They'll- that's-
during a game?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The red dotted lines here, Bill,
yeah,
are walls,
Right.
and each of these walls will have an entrance or a
okay.
exit
So is this wall,
door.
am I right with this, that this wall here, this is where the bleachers are now?
No, the
No,
I
other
have it
one,
backwards.
The
yes,
ble- So you
this-
see that,
right here. The bleachers are right here,
Wait a minute.
Mike. And actually, they go down like this,
Which wall is the one that faces the pond?
this one right here.
That's what I'm saying, aren't the bleachers against that wall?
No,
Or,
the bleachers
oh,
are
they're
up
the
here.
other bleachers that are over here.
Yeah,
Didn't there used to be bleachers on this wall?
there's some benches, but not
Okay,
really bleachers.
benches, I'm using the wrong phrase.
Okay.
So I've got this right. So over here, this is where the Zamboni is, this corner here.
further up in the upper
Yeah,
right hand
Right,
yeah.
corner.
correct, yeah.
But that's the orientation we've got here. So by doing this, this is gonna be walled
Mhm.
across here. Is that a
Correct.
solid wall, or is that a wall with a door, or is that a
No.
glass wall?
Both walls that go up will have doors on them, in order to, yeah, there'll be solid walls, but there'll be doorways, and we'll probably end up doing this as glass doorways, so you would be able to see in and see out, but we're also gonna mark them as with exit signs, so that people understand that in the event of an emergency or whatever, it is a point of egress for people to get out of the building.
Okay, so these are temporary. These can be taken down and removed if
Sure.
it doesn't work
Right.
easily. Now this here, the prep area,
Mhm.
are you partitioning off a piece of existing area?
There is, yeah, so the back side of that old visitor locker room that's there
Yeah.
right now.
To
there's
be
a-
honest with you, I'm not familiar with it. so-
Okay, so there's a utility closet there now, so that kicks out, that shows on the floor plan. And we're gonna wall basically from that utility closet all the way over the back side of the room.
Okay, so you're not doing anything to the footprint of the building, you're not changing any of the dimensions, any of that stuff. So it's pretty much you're just building this out in the area.
Correct,
So, can I assume a goal is over here?
yes.
So there'd be no way to walk around here. Is there a way to walk around there now?
You can walk,
Yeah.
you can walk around there right now, yes.
All right. So would you be able to walk around here if this wasn't open? Would people be allowed to walk through this? Okay, so this is completely segregated and taken out of the picture.
Yes.
Okay. Public safety concerns about the building, guys. Anything about the plan?
Mine was just of egress, and I spoke to Sean about that, and I'll be working, when the building permit comes through, I'll be working with the contractor to make sure that happens.
Okay.
So let me go back to exploring a little bit more about the rental So what you're suggesting is that if a team came to you and said, look, we want to rent this space for 5 hours while these matches are going on, all right? And so for the purpose of so the parents could sit there and watch and be served alcohol, is that going to be, is that possible?
Not, how we're structuring this is going to be, it's 2-hour segmented rentals, so that each team would basically have an option to come in for a 2-hour period
For a
of time.
2-hour period,
So really, it's 90 minutes, because we're gonna, if we turn these over, we're gonna need a
Yeah.
right,
90-minute turnover time in between each one.
okay.
So- And it
So-
won't be, it will never be a situation where they can rent it and just have beer or wine. There's gonna be the food option that
All
comes
right,
with it. It's gonna be
so
a
they
team
would have to be
dinner or
food
meal.
served there, I mean, would you, if we said that, look, for in order for you to be serving alcohol, you'd also have to be serving food simultaneously, would that bother you if we put that restriction in place?
Not at all.
Isn't that
Okay.
a state liquor requirement as well? You have to have table service to be able to, or it's just beer and wine license doesn't affect
Beer and
that?
wine is not the same.
Right, and there'd be no hard alcohol, right?
No.
Okay, and what do you mean by gaming center? I know you talked about allowing some gaming, what is
No,
that?
just, I'm talking in that corner, we're gonna put a TV up there and have some chairs, like
Oh, okay.
gaming chairs for kids, they can play Xbox and.
So you're not asking for a Keno license
Oh,
or
no,
anything
no,
like
no,
that?
no, no, I'm talking like video game stuff.
Okay, all right,
All right. Now, knee hockey competition area, what is
It's just, if you've been around some of the teams, and when they come, and when we used to rent out mulligans, let them use mulligans as well.
Right.
But they love, there's a little miniature nets and little mini sticks, and all the hockey kids love playing this little knee hockey game, so it's just gonna be an area. I'm just showing it designated, it's not really gonna change anything
Okay.
in the building,
I just
so.
don't know what it is.
Yeah.
All right, so my question is, so you rent the private room, these tables here, and is this part of the private room?
Yes,
So that's coming in, and where is the actual physical bar? Is it out here or is it inside?
we leave it inside the actual team, that old visitor locker room.
So it's in the private room,
Correct.
so no one can walk in off the street
No.
and get served. It's only the people that have this private section,
Correct,
and the private section is walled off.
correct.
So when the private room is not being used, is the bar open?
No, in
Okay.
fact, in addition, I think I put it in the write-up, but with that catering license,
Yeah.
that liquor license, at the end of each day or whatever, when
The
bars
alcohol
are run,
comes back.
all comes back into
Yeah.
Mulligan's, into our locked cage. We can't leave anything over there.
So in a sense, what this is a function room only,
Correct.
that just happens to be in this arena.
Mhm.
And the only times it will be functioning will be when there's a function.
Right,
So,
yes.
no, because the question was, originally when we first heard the idea is that we thought, oh, you wanted to put a bar in here, so if there was a hockey event, there'd be a bar.
And then when the Hockey Academy guys approached me about this,
Yeah.
that's what they initially had envisioned doing there.
Right.
That's what they
Right.
had wanted to do. And so as things came to pass, as I learned about the ordinance for the town building and whatnot.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So to Mark now, do we need to speak to the town attorney about creating an exception to the use to allow this?
No, there's no ordinance or anything that the town has adopted. It's been the selectmen's policy to not have alcohol in
right,
town
Yeah.
buildings, and you voted on that at prior meetings.
right,
So there's no written law or regulation within the town to prohibit it. So it's basically whatever your vote is.
Okay.
right.
Now, let's go back to Chris and Dave. After your meetings and talks with Sean and the Hockey Academy and everything else, how do you feel about this?
I'm okay as long as it's, the private rentals. We were a little concerned, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Dave and I mutually felt that it could be trouble if it were just a bar that the general public could come in and sit at and watch hockey.
Okay?
Yeah, I think this, as proposed, I think is fine. You know, they still have to run under the auspices of the liquor laws, so, you know, it's likely that any alcohol that's served is probably not gonna be able to leave that
Right.
function room.
Right.
So you can't have that bleed over where people are walking around with beers
In the
Right.
in
arena?
the general,
Yeah, no, gotcha.
of the arena.
Okay.
So I'm fine with it.
Okay, good. Now, do we have to create as Mark, you mentioned in your memo, a specific amendment to the lease to
Well,
cover this?
I think we should, I should
think we
work
should
with the
review
Hockey
the lease.
Academy, have it reviewed by town council and have them propose something to add to the lease. And that's for a couple of reasons I've talked to Sean
It would be
about.
insurance,
Is,
basically.
well,
And
it's the insurance, but it's also the walls
Yeah,
that we're building. You know, we're actually changing the building itself, and that, the lease is silent on the Hockey Academy basically doing that.
Right.
So we should,
It was silent on all of that stuff with the
Yeah.
exception of we're responsible for maintenance.
That's right.
Not maintenance, but replacing.
Right.
if-
Capital.
Capital improvements to the
Right.
physical ice skating.
everything else was
equipment.
not
Right,
addressed, so.
okay.
so I think where we wanna be, and see if I'm right with this.
Well,
Excuse me,
and
let-
Mark,
Bill,
go ahead.
I think where we wanna be with this is that we wanna give them a sense of how we feel about this, subject to the language being put together that's agreeable to both in the lease, correct?
Well, I don't think
I don't
that
think
we
we can
have
go any
any,
further. I know you guys are in a rush to get, probably to get this done as soon as possible. But the consideration to the lease has to be paid attention to. Am I right or
yeah,
wrong?
well.
You tell me.
I mean, I would not, as I wrote in my memo, I would be okay if you, because I don't think we're gonna have a problem with the lease
Okay.
language.
All right,
And the Hockey Academy, I've already talked to John Fontes, and he knows that a modification of the lease, or it may be just a separate document amending
Yeah.
it, that just
okay,
references the lease.
I just wanted to see where you were on this. Was that-
Oh, no, yeah, I'm comfortable, I've talked to John,
Okay. I'm
and
sorry, Bill.
he's okay with
I
it.
just, from a planning board perspective, I
Yeah.
just don't think there are really any issues here they would have to deal with, right?
No.
It
I
doesn't
mean-
seem to me to be a
I
change of
mean, we're not
use in any
physically,
way.
in any way
No.
altering the exterior of the
Well, we
building.
can't, because we don't own anything
Well,
other than
right, we
the
don't own
land
the land,
underneath,
right,
so,
yeah, other than
I
the
mean, it
land
would
underneath
take
it,
a lot of
right.
other work. But, yeah, I don't really see, I don't even know if we're gonna have to really go in and rewrite the lease itself. I think we
No,
can
I
just
think
adopt.
Somebody needs to
letter
review the
of-
lease
Yeah.
and make sure that from a liability,
Right,
my
sure.
main concern is from a liability perspective. If
Yeah.
there was an issue that we couldn't, that somehow we're held separate
Yeah, we'll have
from it.
a memorandum of understanding or
Right.
a letter of understanding
Yeah.
between us and the
Okay.
Hockey Academy that gets added to the lease.
Yeah, okay, as
Where
long-
they hold us harmless for this use and for the building of the area and all the equipment, so. I don't think it's gonna be a big
Okay.
deal.
Any more questions, Bill?
No,
Margaret?
Do they need a building permit?
Yeah, they'll get a building
they
permit
would need a
with
building
Chris, and
permit
Chris
to
would
alter
work
the
with,
inside of the building.
Chris will work with the contractor, and make sure that all the egress issues are addressed.
Okay, so can I get a motion to accept the proposal from the Hockey Academy penalty box to expand the use in the arena subject to an amended lease? Is that how we should?
Yeah,
Ed.
you know, I don't have a problem with that, all right? Would we need a motion? I'll make a motion.
Is there a
To
second to the
accept
motion?
the understanding
Yeah.
of the proposal
As
from
written,
the Hockey
and
Academy,
we'll read the proposal
subject to
into.
Mark's review of
Yeah.
any changes that need to be made to the lease.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And just for the record, will that motion include suspending the prohibition?
I'll make a
of
motion
alcohol?
to suspend the prohibition of the service of alcohol in that facility in the manner that is
That's right.
described in here.
That's
I
right.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
not willing to
Right.
to suspend it entirely.
I'll second
Um,
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And make sure that this is read it, put into the
Yeah.
record.
Gets attached in minutes, okay?
All right,
Okay?
Thank you.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, old business. Can we get to the MS1?
Yeah, so I've had a couple of conversations with Bill, and his lost Josephine Belleville.
Do they talk to one another?
They
by
do.
the way?
They were
Oh,
sitting
okay.
in the room
They were here.
together while I was
Yeah.
talking
They wouldn't say
to-
anything at the time, and
No,
they knew
right.
at the time that, you know,
Well,
I'm
Phil
guessing
had an
they-
idea,
that
he
they weren't
didn't-
gonna
he
accept this.
didn't want to, well, Jojo basically came down and said, no, we're not going to. So what they are reviewing the valuation that I gave you for the $134,000 for Fairpoint and the $129,000 for Spectrum, right? That came from a spreadsheet that DRA had provided to Comerford Nieder Perkins. DRA is reviewing the calculations that CNP made. And they believe that it's been incorrectly, the spreadsheet's been incorrectly filled out. They did not get through the entire spreadsheet, the DRA folks did not get through the entire spreadsheet. And they had already exceeded those numbers, the 134 and the 129. So there's going to be some kind of higher value that DRA will come up with when they get through the entire spreadsheet.
Right.
So,
Can I
yeah.
just back this up for one
Sure.
second here?
Yeah.
We came up, what were the original numbers from 216?
857,000 for each one of them.
Okay, 870 each, or,
870 each,
Okay.
857 each.
so it's $1.6 million,
That's correct, of loss,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so what was the number we put in?
Right now, we've put in the 857.
Okay, and they want us to adjust it
They
to
want
the
us to
number if
adjust
the
it.
lawsuit
They want
No,
us
they-
to,
they-
no,
no,
they want
that's-
us to use the
Adjusted
lower-
number
the
right now,
adjusted number
is my
right
understanding.
now, okay?
the adjusted number that Comerford Nieder, that our assessors came up with.
No,
No,
the state formula, they want us to
They
adopt
want
the
us to
state
adopt the
formula.
state formula for 2017, okay?
all right.
Now, if we
Yeah.
do that.
Right.
What are the consequences? If, let's suppose that some of these other towns that are suing get some relief in here. If we agreed to this value,
Yes.
are we stuck with it?
No, we are not, and I asked specifically to town council if all we would be is stuck with it for 2017 only.
But we would be stuck with it for
For-
2017.
For this tax year, yes. We wouldn't, however,
Okay.
it would not in any way be prejudicial
Right.
to anything
To-
that we
in-
did
we
for
chose to do
April
in the
1 of
future.
18.
Now, if we took the other position, what are they gonna do?
They would not
Accept our,
accept our MS1, which would mean we would not get a tax rate.
so not accept our MS1.
Right. The MS.
So all these other towns that are out there that claim they're gonna fight this, they're gonna get what? Their MS1s are gonna get turned down?
The reason that they would not accept our MS1 is because, those other towns will not have their MS1 accepted if they are also doing a reval.
What's the
problem-
reval got to do with it?
Because the state law requires us to do the update every
Right.
5 years.
Right, I understood
So-
that.
Well, but
But
that's,
if we had not done the reval,
right.
then they would have had
They
to
would
take
have-
a,
They would have taken our original value, the 857, they would have considered taking it, because we would not be in the position that we have to revalue those properties.
this
It's
is like.
it's a technicality, I understand,
Did we have to do a reval this year?
yes, we
Yes.
did. Because 2012 was the last.
Although
reval
I
we
can
did.
imagine, I don't know, but I would bet there are lots of towns that don't do their revals every 5 years and they get a
They-
slap on the wrist.
They probably would get a slap.
Yeah,
on the
you're right.
wrist. Yes.
Wow.
Now, town
Mark-
council said,
Yeah.
What do we do?
Well, Mark, go a little further with this, because you and I talked about this a little bit. What is the impact of doing what the Department of Revenue wants us to do in terms of valuation what is the impact on our tax rate?
About 6 or 7 cents on the tax rate. It equates to about $20,000 in tax money, actual tax amount. Because it's a loss in value of about $1.5 million.
Okay, so, but that would be for 2017 only.
Yes. Because we will set a new value in 2018 as of April 1.
Is there any alternative other than accepting the way it's, I'm listening to this, is there's no alternative other than to accept their numbers for this year? There is no alternative.
Well, we could have Jay Whitelaw, our town attorney, talk to DRA.
Right.
And tell them that what the town's position is and that we want to maintain the values. That's what I have been telling DRA.
Right.
And get them to agree to release the MS1. Their problem with it is that it violates the
Right.
requirement to
They're using it as a mechanism to enforce the new rules the state came up with.
That's right. So the only thing would be how long it would take DRA to release the MS1 and whether or not they would,
And
which is gonna control how,
so we could
when we could get
potentially not send out any tax bills.
or not send them out on time as if this drags on.
Okay, excuse me.
Ah, shit.
What if they say we can't have a new MS1? If they go, you are just bad people, you can't have a new MS1.
Yes.
What would prevent us from sending out last year's bill and then having adjustment next year?
If we do
No,
not get it,
just tell me
we
what was-
can't legally do that.
Why?
Because
Because we adjust our bill at the end of the half of the year once our tax bill comes out.
no,
Yeah, we do, we send out a preliminary
Well,
bill.
no,
He's
the
right,
preliminary
but-
bill, no, the preliminary bill isn't, because we don't have a tax rate in July
Right.
or June when we send that out. The first half tax bill is just an estimate.
So can we
of-
send out another estimate?
No,
Why?
because DRA will not, they certify the bills that we send out. We don't have the authority to send out a tax bill without them signing off on it. So,
I hate to throw this in, but says who?
says state law.
Well, I
We
think,
have no taxing authority, Mike. All we are doing is sending out a tax bill for the DRA. That is in essence what it is.
Okay, all right.
Because we're just a vehicle of the state
So what
when
you're
it
saying
comes
is,
to this taxation.
so
stuff.
it doesn't matter if we didn't do a reval, they would have to do it for us and tell us what our tax rate
Well,
was.
some towns have taken that position.
Okay,
Yes.
no, so I'm not far
That's-
off in my
No,
thought.
you're not.
Okay, I'm just thinking of,
no,
And
it's the
what they
same
have done
problem
is-
we ran into when we had the first discussion with them, when I figured out that in reality, it didn't matter if whether we as selectmen, in theory, approve the values. Well, in theory, we don't. The DRA holds all
no power, yes.
Hey, they hold all the cards. There is no card to play. There is
Yeah,
nothing we can
exactly.
do.
It's
We just have to do what they tell us to do.
yeah, it's,
Now, I think it would be worth a phone call from Jay Whitelaw to them saying, wait a minute, foul, and see if there's any way around this. I mean, maybe she can negotiate something, hey, look,
Well,
we want to
that's
keep the old values.
that's right, and that's exactly the approach that I would wanna take, because if we keep the 2016 values,
Right,
don't change them for this year,
right,
we understand that we're probably gonna get an abatement request from Spectrum and from
Right.
Fairpoint.
right.
When we come to some negotiated
Agreement,
valuation agreement
yeah.
and give them an abatement. However, if we take the lower value
Yeah, we're-
and then we get a higher value in
Right.
June or July,
We're
we
screwed.
can't go back and tax
and
them.
we
Yeah.
can't have the money.
All
Right.
I've been trying to do is protect
Yes, no,
the rest
No,
of
I
the
hear you.
taxpayers.
And so I guess I'd be in the position of saying, Jay, give it your best shot to see if you can work something out with them to keep the values higher than what they are.
Yeah, and DRA, if we were not in a reval year, DRA would probably let us keep the higher value in.
That's the piece
Under
that
that
really
plan.
sticks in my craw.
Well, and that's exactly where, we're
That's
being
not
forced to
fair.
do
Yeah.
this. That's right.
Now,
Be-
Mark, isn't
Because we
there,
played by the rules, we're
That's
getting
right.
penalized.
Exactly.
there is somebody else who has done an evaluation, correct?
Mhm.
And we're not allowed to use that evaluation, is that
Well,
correct?
he has not done our specific, but he has done other work for other towns
Okay,
on this. And
right,
he has disagreed with the spreadsheet that was developed by DRA. We can't have a contract with him because the law doesn't allow us to have two contracts while we're in a reval. So we can't, CNP would have to have some kind of an agreement to subcontract with him, but that's gonna take months to
And that's
get-
gonna cost
and
us
it's-
$20,000
oh,
we're
and
not gonna
guess what?
collect.
And guess what?
Yeah.
DRA has to approve the subcontracting
And
too, so,
they may
because,
not.
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah. It's,
I
we're being-
agree with Bill's idea. Let's have Jay call over there and see if he
So-
can do anything.
do you,
See, the other thing, I mean, I would ask Jay the question, do we have any recourse in the courts? Any at all? Because what we're being squeezed here is we're just being told, you do what I tell you to do. That's what everything here stinks of.
yes.
Yeah,
And-
You do what I tell you to do,
Right,
even after
And-
you've done what we've told you to do.
even though we might agree with you that you didn't have enough sales
Yeah.
to
Right.
justify
still gonna
any
do it,
kind of a
yeah.
change, you do it anyway, because we don't know,
well, we do have the recourse of going to court and challenging it. The problem is, in the interim, will they give us the MS1 so that we can
Send the text.
send the
So
tax
you'd
bills
have
out?
to go, literally, you'd have to go to court and force them to issue an MS1.
Well, I guess so, and.
That's
and
the
then-
kind of question we'd have to ask Jay. Is there any way to do that? Because they're threatening not to issue an MS1, so we're in a position of not being able to collect any money. We'll go bankrupt in a matter of,
Well, no, we
a
can
month.
get tax anticipation notes, it's not a, that's.
well,
not the
yeah,
issue,
but
that
Who's
costs
gonna
money.
do it?
who's gonna loan us money if
The bank-
we're,
The bank will,
Now when they know about this
not if
lawsuit.
we know we're screwing around with the DRA.
but anyway,
Well,
yes,
I wouldn't loan you money, let's put it that way.
someday the taxes will go out, it's just a matter of when.
All right,
So, but I understand now, how do you wanna handle, cause I have a completed MS1 here, but obviously the values, there's gonna be some change in the values. Do you wanna meet again?
what is that
Um,
MS1 predicated on? What?
This is with the 857,000
Okay,
for each of them.
and are they telling us we can't do that or we can do that?
Well,
I have no problem approving what we approved last time.
But
okay,
it's- but
If
didn't
we
that
wanna
get kicked back
sign
to us?
that, we can go and say, look, we've submitting here an approved
That-
MSA.
that's what I would like to do, is have you
But
approve
didn't they
this.
just kick that out at us?
No, they said they're threatening to
They
kick it
said
Oh,
out.
I
they're
thought it was kicked
threatening,
out.
no, they're threatening to
Oh,
kick
okay.
it out,
Then let's send it in.
so
Let's
let's
send
send it
Yeah.
in with the
Right.
857.
I'll make a motion to
but I'll-
approve the MSA as developed by Mark, and what's the total amount on it?
Oh, it's with the values of
Right.
857,000 for
Right.
Fairpoint and
Okay,
it's a total taxable value of the town of 300.
I think I'd like to
30 million.
read that into the record, that
700
that's the
million.
amount.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ready, Sharon?
on the motion.
Yep.
330,708,657 net valuation for the town.
Alright.
Thank you. All right, Martin, any other questions on this one?
These
No,
guys must be,
I think this
Now,
is the right thing to
Can-
do.
Okay,
and
so,
let's see
but I
what
have
Jay
two,
does.
all right, so
next.
I'm gonna go back to Jay and we're gonna talk to DRA about leaving the values at the 857. DRA is also, remember, recalculating the spreadsheet. So if we're somewhere between the really low numbers that CNP came up with and the 857, you know, if the recalculation is somewhere around 3 or 4
I
or
would ask you when-
500,000,
Yeah, right, I would
just
ask you to
send you an email.
Yeah, send us an email,
Okay.
if it was an adjustment of that order of
Yeah.
magnitude upwards.
I'd like
I
an
would,
email to see what, let's see what they say to the penny and where the changes are.
Right. Right, exactly. And so we can.
Because who
go
knows
from
what they're
there.
gonna do? This
We
is,
don't.
No, it's the same state government that
live free or
controls the
die,
dam.
as long as it's by our rules.
That's right.
Well, it is basically a state where state law
Yeah.
supersedes everything.
Yeah.
And the only thing we have a right to do is what they tell us we can
Yeah.
do.
Well, I knew there was a catch when they would sell you firecrackers, but you can't light them. All
Okay.
right, let's move on to the well number 3 testing update.
As you know, like, last week I told you that the new pump and the check valves were in place.
Yep.
The well was, then shot and it was allowed to set. And then we went and, we were going to flush the line out. And, we noticed that, the pressure in the line had not fallen off from when we had tested the new check valves in the pump. And,
What is that an indication of, please?
that is an indication that the check valves are working.
Okay,
And the line is not, there's
The
no
line-
leaks.
There's no leaks.
okay.
There potentially is no leak.
Well, how could there be a leak and the pressure hold?
Well, there
It
could.
couldn't be, right, right, any
Not-
kind of pressure, yes.
So to check that was a 24-hour difference.
Okay,
To check that, we recharged the line, shut everything down, and let it set for 3 days. I went in, I opened the valve up, and we immediately had a pressure release, and there was water there. Turned the pump on, and we had instantaneous water. So the pipe remained full.
right,
So, I put everything together and I got hold of Joe Ducharme, and we had a conference call with Mark and Joe Ducharme yesterday, and the theory is that with a non-operative check valve, the old check valve, which did not work, it allowed water back into the well, which creates a negative pressure inside the pipe, and the gaskets that are used to put the pipes together are designed to expand with pressure inside the pipe, and that's how they work. If there's negative pressure or a vacuum, they don't work so well, or the potential for groundwater intrusion is there. So
yeah, but you know, but even under the old setup with a failing check valve, you wouldn't have drawn a vacuum on the line, would you?
potentially, yes.
How?
Because the whole line emptied out.
The
I mean, that's the only thing he can
right.
really, we had a closed valve at the
Well, I mean,
pump
that
house.
would get the pressure down to 0, but I don't think it would make it go negative. I mean, to go negative, you'd have to suck the water out of it.
Or some of it, yes.
Yeah,
So I'm not saying that
Ah.
there was negative pressure in the whole
Yeah.
run of pipe, but, you know, the pipe does go
Okay.
uphill,
go ahead.
so. And,
So what do the wizards want to do now?
well, we did have a pressure test.
All right, can you explain to me what was wrong with what just happened?
When you, when you go to the kitchen sink and you turn your faucet on, you instantaneously have water,
Right,
correct? If we turn the pump on at, well 3, and I open a valve at pump house 1, I should instantaneously have water.
Because that line's.
Okay.
yeah, no, I've got you,
That
so
line is
far.
full. So same scenario as your kitchen sink.
But what's
What
wrong
was happening-
is that the original theory was that the failing backflow valves were allowing water to flow back from the pump station, and there was somehow groundwater getting into that pipe, and that's what was causing the contamination. Now, it appears that that's not a likely source of any
Well, we thought
contamination.
that-
I'm
we
not
thought
saying
that
it's
the
impossible.
contamination was because there was an actual crack
In the,
in the
Yeah.
in the pipe coming in?
in the
All right,
pipe.
so back to my
However,
question, did the
that
test
does
come
not
out with
appear-
contamination?
We haven't done it yet, because our,
Yeah,
what we needed to do, I tested for the presence of chlorine, because the well company shocked the well.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was a 0.3 residual, which is just a tad bit higher than we have in the system, so.
Of chlorine?
Of
Yes.
chlorine.
Okay,
So there was chlorine in the system, but there was not as much as we would anticipate. So the chlorine did work because it was used up,
okay,
because the concentration was not very high. So what we did was we re-shocked the well, and we just, we dumped chlorine down into the well, we ran it out into the pipe, and we're gonna let it set for 24 hours. Then we're going to pump the well down, and then when we get low enough on the residual for the chlorine, we will grab a bacteria test.
So we're
And we
going
will
to.
test it
yeah.
here before we send it out to make, because it
but
goes,
it puts us in the same, let's hypothetically, and my guess is, everything is gonna pass. So now we're stuck with, back to the original problem. We don't know why this well failed twice. We really don't know.
okay,
Although
so,
we could probably get it back online.
Okay, so our plan was to replace these backflow preventers,
Yeah,
which we have.
right, which you had to do,
Okay,
they were failing
so-
anyway.
So now that the line will hold a charge, right, and it will
Right.
hold the pressure, there is no need to do an air pressure test.
I
Because
completely
the
agree.
water is
Yeah,
not going anywhere.
No, right,
So if we get these samples clean 3 days in a row,
yeah,
okay, then Emery and Garrett has already gone in and looked at the interior of the well. They have done a survey of the area around the well. There's no presence of anything that could be contaminating the well itself. We'll treat the well the way that we always have with the chlorine, and monitor the water coming out of the well. It appears that failing backflow valve that we replaced was in some way allowing the contamination to come back from the wells, or the pump house, back towards the well.
I
And-
don't buy that, but,
Well, I mean,
but I
Is that
think-
the only thing that we replaced, was that
yes,
check
that's the
valve?
only
Yeah.
thing
Yes.
we.
It's the only difference
The only
between the
difference.
former and,
Mhm.
well, except that the water table has changed again. I mean,
we're not down to where we were.
well, my guess is, maybe we are dealing with a situation where we don't get contamination in the well unless we get very, very dry conditions where the groundwater, for some reason, starts to drop. And then all of a sudden, you can get contamination in the well, which leaves us in a challenging position because we have no idea when the next time it's gonna fail. It's failed twice. I mean, if this were just once, I'd say, we roll of the dice, but it's happened to us twice,
well,
over a span of 5 years.
No,
So,
it's- well,
Wasn't-
it was
wasn't
longer
the
than
first-
that, but it is twice.
wasn't the first time though that we had to replace the entire pump?
No,
No.
the pump failed.
that was a pump
Failure is
failure.
separate.
That was a pump
total
failure.
pump,
Yes.
pump
Okay,
failure.
but we
The
replaced the
first-
pump,
The
and
first
since then-
time that it happened
Right.
was at a high, it actually was raining and had been raining a long time the
Yeah.
last time we had a failure, so.
I
don't know
guess
that
I'd
it's the
like to hear
groundwater.
more before we, and I'm assuming you're gonna do these tests and everything is gonna pass.
Mhm.
and maybe from the well wizards, as to come in and explain why they're convinced there's nothing wrong with this well.
And there is.
Otherwise, what are we waiting? See, the problem is, this well could have been contaminated all along, for all we know, on and off. But because of the method of testing, had a tendency, you know, because you added chlorine and stuff, and it sat in pipes in a while in the distribution system, because your method of testing was to test at the end of the distribution system, right?
Yes, we are
Yeah.
required monthly to test out in the distribution
The
system.
system to see
And
if
if
it's
there is
contaminated.
any
And it could have
bacteria.
been that the chlorine was taking care of it.
Well, that's what it's there for. There is-
No,
there-
no, well, I don't wanna go down that again, because you told me, when we asked this question once before, about would we, unless we can get clean water, the DES will never allow us to say we're treating it as a solution.
That is a requirement when you have
Right.
E. coli at the well,
Right,
okay, you must get 3
clean
clean
Right.
samples.
samples.
However, that doesn't mean that the water in that well is clean 100% of the time. That's why we chlorine.
I'd like to hear the well wizards tell me that.
Okay,
That, look, what you're doing is standard procedure here, and don't worry about it.
but that's.
Because it
the-
sounds to me like it was a contradiction to what the DES said,
but
which
that's-
is don't tell me about you treating it. You have to have clean water at the well. You gotta be able to demonstrate that it's
When
always
you have a
clean.
hit, that is correct. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Because of the way that we're treating it.
But I didn't think we could change that.
The-
We could
If
not
you-
change that and get approval from the DES said, you can go ahead and put this holding tank in and keep it there for 24 hours.
No,
But we still would turn you down
No.
if you
No.
weren't
If-
clean at the
listen,
well.
The solution, the solution, as far as the DES is concerned and the industry, is if you put well 3 into the new pump house,
Yeah,
then you get the contact time and
I
everything
want
that
the
gives you
well
what they
wizards
call
to-
full log removal.
I want the well wizards to tell me that that's an absolutely acceptable solution, because what I heard from DES was we would turn you down if you can't produce a sample coming out of that well
Right.
that has no E. coli. I don't care what you do with the treatment system, we're still gonna nail you.
They did say that because because of the way we have log 3 removal, that's the way we are currently treating the water from well 3. And because that is the way we are treating it, we must have 3 clean samples because we had an E. coli hit.
Okay?
And then we can
If
put
you're
it back
saying
online.
then I'm wrong, and
No,
I
you're
just
not wrong.
need Ducharme, some of these other guys to come in here and tell me you misinterpreted what they said. And it would be perfectly acceptable to have E. coli in the well as long as we had a tank and held the water for 24 hours. Because that's what I'm hearing. That would be acceptable, and because my impression was that it was, that they said that's not acceptable. But let's get it, whichever way it is, I'm willing to go with it.
I mean, the industry standard is, and DES's rules are, full log removal for if we were taking the water out of Corcoran's Pond.
Right,
You
So
could-
if,
right, and we understand that if we pumped it directly out of the river and you went through this,
right, and then it would
but
have
they
to go
said
through-
because we're wells, that doesn't apply. Now, maybe it misheard them,
Right.
and if they come back and say you can go to the other method, then we ought to consider that.
The other method.
Which
of-
is put everything into the new well house and hold the
Oh.
water there for
Right.
24 hours.
Okay, well, I will ask Emery and Garrett to come.
Is there enough space to hold it for 24 hours?
Well,
I guess.
everything is timed, so there's
Yeah.
30,000 gallons in there. If a pump comes on, then a well comes up. If, you know, if we pump up to the reservoir, then if there's water coming out of a well.
Oh, gotcha, so
to-
the pump
to-
side is not held there, it goes
Yeah,
up to
it's
the
not-
reservoir.
That's right.
Right, but,
Now I
So,
understand.
but the bottom line though is to get Emery and Garrett to come back in and talk to you about, look, so we're gonna continue to
Options as
take,
to what we're
right,
doing.
we're gonna continue to take samples.
yeah,
If we continue to get bacteria hits, it's a moot point, we gotta do something else.
right.
But if we get clean samples, then we need Emery and Garrett to tell us
Why
what
we're
we
getting
can
them.
do.
or
That's
Why
why
we're
they're-
getting, why they're
We gotta
clean now?
continue the investigation, right.
Right,
But there's
So-
no sense in doing
no,
the, some of the
pressure
stuff
test,
is spending
right.
money that
You've
we
done the
don't know
pressure
that we
test.
have to spend.
you've
The
done the
pressure
pressure
test is
test, you
clear.
pressurize the line and then the pressure don't fall.
Right.
That's a pressure
Okay.
test.
So, so we will continue to do those, and I'll set up Emery and Garrett for the 25th.
Or whenever, you know,
Or
whenever it's
Whenever they
appropriate.
can, right.
Yeah.
Okey doke, let's move on to the Corcoran's Pond Dam update.
Oh,
Well,
For a small town, we have a lot of,
we certainly do. We run afoul of the federal, of the state government
What a big-
time and time again.
gonna be
So-
thrown out of the state.
Can we secede?
I was just
I'm-
gonna
I'm
say,
sure
we
they'd
could
chip
do like
in.
Vermont towns and secede. So we are sending that email,
Yeah.
Russ and I are sending that email to Jim Gallagher, and hopefully by the 25th, we'll get an answer back from him.
Okay,
Okay.
So no real changes on that.
all right, DPW personnel update.
We're continuing to
Yeah.
advertise for the position, and no change on that since my last.
Good.
Could we be that far out of the salary range again?
Well, the last time we updated them was
Probably 3 or 4 years ago? Or was it longer than that?
13,
Oh,
yeah, so it's been 4 years,
I just,
What's the starting rate?
16 something.
I-
16 with our benefit package?
yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't think, you know, for
Right.
unskilled labor.
Yeah, and that's starting, that's, for somebody who has no experience is willing to
Right.
come in, 16 and
that
our
isn't
benefit
where we were.
I think it's
That isn't
basically
where
a
we were
problem with
starting.
people that, my
And that's not
interpretation
where
is a
we're
lot of
starting
people in
these
New Hampshire
people.
don't wanna work.
Well, the people that we've had apply actually.
And I don't blame them.
Have worked, and that's been the problem. It's that we don't have people who are applying who don't currently have jobs.
Right.
So we're competing
Yeah.
against people that are in positions.
Oh, they're looking for better jobs.
They're looking for better
Yeah,
jobs.
that-
Or to better their own position.
Or to better their
Yeah,
own
we
life.
have one of
Well-
those too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all right. Have we got any correspondence?
I do not.
All right, board concerns or directives?
And we're gonna have the 2 public hearings on the 25th.
Okay, the cemetery and. the
Yeah,
other-
well, you do have the issue about the cemetery, right?
Right. Oh, do you wanna talk about,
what issue?
well, Bob Freeze sent me an email with the pictures.
She went and looked, that's why she was late.
That's why
She
I
went
was
and
late,
looked
is I
at the
went and took
cemetery.
Because
pictures.
one of the suggestions I would make is turning those rocks on their sides so they're not as high.
Well, I went and looked at them,
Yeah.
Mike, and the one on the left-hand side, you
Yeah.
took a picture,
I
I
did.
have a picture too.
Yeah.
The one on the left-hand side is too rounded, we
Yeah.
can't turn it.
Yeah.
It's sitting on the only flat surface.
Yeah.
If you take the other one and you turn it down because it's a longer, narrower, it's gonna be lower than
Yeah.
the one on the left. And I don't know that it's gonna look
What did you
good.
think, Margaret? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
You know what? I thought it was fine.
All right.
I
Did you
mean,
see
I
it, Bill?
really did, let me.
As far as, have we had
Did you
any
go and
dead
look?
people complain yet?
No,
I'm
Halloween's coming
sorry,
up.
I
don't
Then
forget.
it's
I
okay.
really did think.
All right, all right, then let's
It's
let's
okay.
stay with it. We'll note his
Okay.
thing and we'll say.
I've had one feedback and they thought that, what their comment was, they appreciated the fact that, we got the plaque and everything worked. It's all right with me. I mean, if we want to buy another stone, buy another stone, but
No, well, one in the middle is gonna go and explain what it is.
right. That's the only thing we have left to do is the
Yeah.
explanation.
All right, then we'll just be fine with that. So that's
And
fine.
I really like the fact that that it has kind of a natural appearance
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
using our river stone
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that kind of thing.
All right.
All right, good.
I'm sorry this has been such a
No, no.
chore for you.
It just gets better every day. Uh,
We're gonna have you help build it next time.
Yeah. Or I could just spend the rest of my weekends rolling that rock up and down the hill. So no board concerns, anything for non-public? All right, then I will entertain a moment, a motion.
I
to
will
adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
So we went home and watched the movie, rented it from Time
Yeah.
Warner. It was great.
Isn't it